after that last hospitalization, I just realized like even, like all these things I promote, like wellness and, just taking care of your mental health, self-care and all those things. It's like I had to start internalizing those things myself because I was allowing the situations with my adult children kind of take over my life. And sometimes when you don't feel good mentally, you don't feel good physically, and vice versa.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling here in Iowa.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our vice president in charge of the behavioral health department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today joins us for their fifth episode on this podcast. We've got Tenesha Gatson here with us today, a huge advocate for mental health, just in all aspects of Tenesha's life. She is consistently putting out hope and putting out inspiration and putting out information for people who might be struggling with mental health symptoms in their lives. Tenesha has 3 adult children. She's got 4 grandchildren. She has been in the healthcare field in an administrative capacity for over 15 years. She has been on the Heart and Solutions board for the last 3 years and has really is just consistently an advocate for mental health services and lives a life that really authentically promotes walking the walk and talking the talk because so many of us just need that hope and inspiration throughout our day, and knowing that somebody else is living that as well can really just empower us to take those hard steps as well. So welcome, Tenesha. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. We love having you here on the show. We love having you on our board. You just are so passionate. You just bring so much care for the mental health community, and it's just really inspiring to see. So we have talked about your blog site, Spice to Your Life. We've talked about your social media pages where you put out a lot of information about mental health services and ways to cope through different things. We've also talked about your advocacy work for parents who have children that require EAPs or need that additional support, and ways that parents can really advocate for their children in a system that doesn't always do that automatically, right? We have to step in and do that. So we just love having you here, and we think you always have great information to share. So what's been new with you? What's been happening with you? I know you've got a lot of cool stuff coming out.
Well, in September, I had launched Spice to Your Life Mental Health and Wellness LLC, where I'll be providing resources and consultation, especially like with parents who need step-by-step navigation through the IEP process. Also, getting ready. Actually, it'll be on Sunday. I have 2 ebooks that I'm going to do, and one is going to be free, and the other one is going to be for purchase. That I'm going to do in regards to One is with the IEP process, and the other one is just related to mental health. But that's kind of something like by me working the mental health and wellness platforms on my social medias, I've been doing that for a few years now. So I wanted to take it a step up because I had a lot of parents like reaching out to me and they wanted to know like, okay, what is it that they do? Um, to go through the IEP process. A lot of times, it's like not knowing the information and the steps, like how to go about getting their kids diagnosed. And it doesn't matter where you live, I'll be willing to assist. I have my website outside of the blog, which is www.spicetoyourlife.com, and on there they can do a submit a consultation form, and then I can see what it is that they need and kind of go through there that way. But that's kind of like me moving the process forward to really be able to assist and help. um, and that's one thing that I'm doing. And then also, since you guys last seen me, if you look back on the the podcast in the last year, I've lost um like 152 pounds to be exact. And that came with last December, I was hospitalized for um 22 days. And after that last hospitalization, I just realize like even like all these things I promote like wellness and just taking care of your mental health, self-care, and all those things. It's like I had to start internalizing those things myself because I was allowing the situations with my adult children kind of take over my life. And sometimes when you don't feel good mentally, you don't feel good physically, and vice versa. So after that hospital stay, I just really started taking steps to better my mental health, and even with a lot of my physical activity. I was going to water aerobics 3 days a week, and then I would go to the gym like on a Saturday. So I kind of had myself, I know the way for success with me is to have a routine. So what I would do is on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I would do the water aerobics. And then on Saturday, I would go in the gym and work on gym equipment. And I've been consistent with that since January. And of course, it paid off. And also, too, my doctor did put me on Ozempic. So I do take, um, I'm up now to 2 milligrams of Ozempic once a week. So I do take that because, as you guys know, I was looking into getting a gastric bypass surgery, but just from my healthcare experience and working in surgery, I'm not a huge fan of surgery. And then not just that, when I had my 3 children, I had 3 C-sections, and my body did not heal well after having those surgeries. So my alarm and concern came from a number of things. One is how my body responded to the surgery of my C-sections, and then two, at my weight being put to sleep and under anesthesia. That was a concern for me. And then just sometimes when you work in healthcare and you know too much information, it's not a good thing. So a lot of times when I was going, because I had started going to Mayo Clinic in Rochester to start the process for that. But as I was like going through the process and had questions, the doctor's like, what do you do for a living? Because your questions aren't typical questions like that patients ask. It's a little, like a little more in depth. So, and I just explained to him, like I've worked in surgery actually for like 5 years, and then just working in healthcare in general, like my level of concern was more from a clinical standpoint, whereas traditional um, gastric bypass patients will have like other questions. And for me having a surgery, like you guys know, I suffer from lymphedema. And so I thought, like me losing the weight would help my lymphedema. But when you have lymphedema, it's not gonna go anywhere. You could be 150 pounds and if you got lymphedema, you got lymphedema. Like only thing you can do is manage it. And I believe I was told by one of my lymphedema therapists that in the process of me having one of my kids, I don't know which one it was, but when they was cutting them out, they damaged my lymphatic tissues, and it just probably didn't take effect till years later. So that's the reason why that was a lot of like my hospital stays is always related to the lymphedema. Any medication I take is also related to the lymphedema. So yeah, that's kind of been the reason I wasn't, like able to work and had to go out on disability was due to, the lymphedema and not able to like sit for 8 hours at a desk or stand for long periods of time. It all, was due to that. So that's kind of like um what I've been dealing with. And I also moved to Illinois. So I'm in the Rockford area now, which that was something I wanted to do because sometimes when you have adult children, like the things that were going on in their life and the decisions they were making was definitely impacting me. And my older son just didn't respect like personal space. And like I say, you have to have boundaries, with your children. So um me focusing on myself and taking care of myself is like I didn't care what went on. I know it was a period of time when I was still in Iowa where my grandkids were with me, where my son had got his older two boys for like 2.5 months. And it's like he didn't know how to adjust his life to having his kids there with him. And so he would try to like put them off on me. And I'm like, oh no, if I gotta go work out, I ain't nothing stopping my working out. Like you better make some other plans. Like nothing is gonna come in between me taking care of myself. Like that's just what it is. And after I'm done, I have no problem watching the boys, but you're not gonna compromise my routine and what I have going on. So even just being here, at home alone and able to like focus, have quiet time, my sleep is better, like mentally, I just feel like I'm at the best I've ever been in so long. And it's like, I know like during the holidays, my mother asked me like, oh, do I miss my son's cooking? I said, no, I like my peace. Like, I don't care. I was like, I don't care about any of that. Actually, Thanksgiving, I ate special case cereal. I didn't even eat like Thanksgiving food. I'm like, I didn't had it before. I know what it tastes like. I'm not pressed about having no turkey dressing or whatever the case may be. I'm like, so I was just like, I'm fine with that. As long as I got my peace, I said my peace will not be disturbed. So that's just how I feel about that.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot's been going on in your life since we last talked for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, so we could start with like the weight loss thing. I know you mentioned like your mental health and physical health, kind of that correlation between them, and you felt like you weren't taking care of like the physical health aspect. Can you kind of talk about the changes that you've noticed since losing weight that's like impacted your mental health and made it better since that's improved?
Um, I think overall, like, I could say confidence, being able to do more physically. My mobility has changed a ton. Um, I was debating if I was gonna give numbers, but I will. So, I had gotten up, um, let me see, like November of last year. When I went in the hospital, my weight was 579 pounds. And that scared the hell out of me, to be honest, if we've been frank. And I was like, that's the largest I ever been. I never been that big. And I've seen how all of that was like taking a toll on me, like dealing with managing my lymphedema, the stress of having my oldest son always around, just like not respecting the personal space. Like all of these things was affecting my health. And so it's like, oh no, I refuse to let, this affect me. So after that last hospital stay, like I was like, no, this is it for me. Like like I know what to do and I'm gonna do it. And stick to it. And that's just what it is. And it's like it's easy. It's easy for me. Like it's so easy. I log my calories on my fitness pal. Well, since I moved, I was concerned because I was like, oh man, I haven't been in the gym since October. Well, since the end of October. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to gain no weight. But I'm mindful of like what I eat, how much I eat. And then I was telling my youngest son, I was like, oh, I haven't worked out. He's like, Mom, but you don't realize like you're home by yourself. So you're doing all your cleaning, this and that. He like, that is working out. He like, that's a form of working out. He said, your body is doing things that your body ain't used to doing. So it's still a shock value to your body. And then I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. And I was like, because actually, since September to now, I've lost 50 pounds. And I was like, how? I'm like, I wasn't even working out. Like what happened? So I'm like, okay, I'll take it. you know. So it's definitely something to see. And people see the changes in my face, my body. Like I hadn't seen my brother in quite some time. So he had came down to help me move. He was like, oh my God, he like, look at you. He like, all right. Like everybody just so, surprised and stuff like that. But I feel good. Like they say, if you look good, you feel good. And that's just not like aesthetically far as like weight loss. That's even, you know, taking an effort to get up every day and, get yourself together. Cause it's like if you look like crap, you're gonna feel like crap. Or my grandmother used to always say, you ain't gotta look how you feel, even if you is having a bad day. So um yeah, I'm just mindful of that. And then too, what I promote, I want to be a product of that, not just speaking it and saying it, but showing it like this is what wellness is, your wellness journey, taking care of yourself. Self-care consists of a lot of things. It's not just, your mental health, it's your physical health. What are you doing to be kind to yourself today? So that's kind of like a mantra that I'm starting now, and that I would take also to my social media platforms, because it's like sometimes we get so engulfed in, taking care of your spouse, your kids, and your job, and you forget about you. It could be just the small things, go take a hot bath, listen to some music, just unwind. Like everybody needs that downtime to just reset, you know. So yeah, I've been able to reset a lot.
Ah, oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. You are every, blog post that you put out or post that you put out, because we know you, we see you doing these things, it means that much more with the content that you're putting out, because we're going, she is doing this. Like she is living this life.
Mhm.
And modeling by example and noticing when things feel unwell, or noticing when boundaries are difficult to uphold, right? And going, no, I gotta put a real firm boundary on this, right? I'm gonna say no to things, so that I can say yes to things. I love the example that you gave about, nope, that's my gym time, right? Like I would love to help my family member. I would love to do that. Obviously, I love my grandkids, but I am going to the gym at this time. And that I'm going to the gym today because it's my day to go to the gym, and that is the priority. And once I've done that, absolutely. If I can, if I've got spoons left, right, I want to help out. But
Mhm.
that is the priority. Getting enough sleep, that is the priority. That has to be. And it's such a great example because it is so hard to set boundaries with family members. It's so hard to set boundaries on our limitations, and to feel like, okay, no, I'm not, superhuman. I cannot do this life and take care of the things I need to take care of if my body isn't getting vitamins from my food, like if my body is not getting movement, and being activated, and all my chemicals are not in check, right? Because my body's stagnant. So I just think it's so inspirational what you're doing. I love the routines for success. And you also talked about asking those questions of your doctor. And one thing I just really, really enjoy about you is that anytime you go through something, right, when you go through really hard things, you are not afraid to talk about it. And you are also not afraid to share it with other people because you know that other people are going to go through those same challenges. You know how hard it was for you. And you're like, no, I'm going to use this situation to help other people. So I'd love to hear, what advice you might have for people who might be looking at a surgery like that, right? Like a bariatric surgery or any sort of um, surgery that is elective, right? So not life-saving surgery, right? But elective surgeries. What are some of those questions that people should maybe be asking or could be asking as they make that kind of decision?
One thing I would say, definitely do your research. A lot of times when you are overweight, or in my case, morbidly obese, doctors push the weight loss surgery onto you. And I always say, um, weight it stems from something. I don't agree with having a surgery if you haven't taken care of your mental health, because the thing about the surgery is it's so demanding and it's so restrictive. So a lot of the times, a lot of patients go through severe depression after the surgery. So if you haven't dealt with the issues that got you to that weight, whether it was trauma, you're emotionally eating, whatever the case may be, then you're going to have a hard time. You're going to find yourself being in and out of the hospital because you're not properly taking care of yourself, because you didn't do the work. Like everybody want a quick fix. The weight didn't come on overnight. It's not going to come off overnight. You got to be realistic with yourself. Give yourself realistic goals. I would say personally, I feel like a person should seek on working on their mental health for at least a year before you consider doing a surgery. And when I say consistently work on your mental health, not just when you're at the therapist's office talking, no. You need to journal, write your feelings out. You gotta find another way of coping and not using food to cope, or blame. Like you have to redirect whatever emotion or anger. You have to find another way to redirect that. You can do that by journaling is huge, because a lot of times everybody isn't comfortable with sharing everything with someone because they don't want to be judged. But journaling, you can say whatever you want and all it's going from you to the paper, but you're getting out of your head. So that way you're not study dwelling on it. And then sometimes when you journal, if you journal for 30 days and you look back, you'll see how far you came. Like, oh, I didn't even know, I realized I dealt with this in the beginning. Now I'm at this place in my life. So journaling is huge. And then finding something like a self-care routine and ways to distress, like watching stand-up comedy. Like a lot of times you'll see like a lot of stand-up comedy on my um Facebook page, because laughter is good for the brain. It helps induce the positive endorphins in your brain. So laughing, if you're having a down day, watch some comedy, watch something that's going to make you laugh, listen to music, like, but don't go towards the food if that's what you use to cope. You just got to find other ways to do it. And then take some self-care time, like wash your hair, do your hair, or paint your nails, take a nice hot bath, get some alone time to yourself. Um, if you have a friend, or someone you trust that you can talk to, reach out to them. Like a lot of times people be afraid to reach out because they feel like they're not going to be supported, or that big fear of being judged. So that's why I say the journaling thing is a good thing for that. So, and then yeah, I'm real big on the mental health piece. A lot of times I don't feel like they focus enough on the mental health piece before someone, embarks on such a huge procedure like a, weight loss surgery. People fail to realize like a weight loss surgery, you are altering your body. You can't go back and change once you alter your body, and for me, working in healthcare, I've seen on the other end of the spectrum, whereas, people are 10 years to 15 years post-op and they on a colostomy bag. And it's like, I was thinking at the time, like, hey, I'm 45. I don't want to shit bag in 10 years. Like, that's not the goal here. So like you have to consider all things, and it's a major surgery. So you'll end up with blood clogs. You got to know what's your surgical history, what runs in your family. A lot of things like with diabetes, if you just start to lose weight, that can be reversed, if the weight come down. And then the thing is, people look at weight loss surgery as a quick fix, and it's not a quick fix. Sometimes, like for me, I wrote down the pros and the cons, like with my weight, the doctor saying like, oh, you're at risk for this, you're at risk for that. I'm at risk, but I do not have. So that's the thing. The medical issue that I was struggling with, and on medication for, was related to the lymphedema. I don't have, well, me being my size, I didn't have like any heart issues. I wasn't diabetic, and all these different things. So it's like, okay, if I don't have these issues, what I need to do. It doesn't matter. Any weight loss plan will work if you stick to it. So it's no such thing as, oh, I tried this didn't work for me, that didn't work for me. And it's like, it's not true. Somewhere you jumped off the bandwagon. When you was consistent with it, it worked. And work in what way? You think you're gonna lose 30 pounds in a month? Like, that's not realistic. You might do that like in the beginning if you're a larger person like myself. It's easy to lose those big numbers when you start to cut back and get active, but that's not realistic, like a realistic goal to lose that much weight. And then you got to think about too, when you have the weight loss surgery, okay, now you're going to have another issue because you're going to have tons of loose skin because you're not able to eat like you normally eat. Sometimes your body rejects food. Some I've seen stories where people have had weight loss surgery and they can't keep anything down and they have to end up getting like a feeding tube. So it's like it's so many things to consider. You really, really have to do your research. And everybody, what works for one person might not work for the next one. Everybody body responds differently to surgery. So don't think one success story is going to be your success story because, that's just not the case.
Yeah, definitely. How have you been able to stay motivated? I know, like you said, it is hard to like stay on, especially if you maybe aren't seeing results at the beginning or maybe as fast as you want to, but being able to stay on that and continue to lose weight. I mean, you've been doing it almost a year now, which is amazing. How have you been able to like keep up and continue doing it?
Because I know what the alternative was, like being in pain and um not being able to do certain things, or just my body hurting. Like, realistically, like, okay, if I'm tired of this, how is it not gonna stop hurting if I'm steady eating the same things, like. So it's just been easy for me because it's like I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in and out of the hospital. And then actually, I know that I'm doing like extremely well because normally every year around June or July, I'm always in the hospital for at least 30 days because I get a really bad flare up with my lymphedema. And this year that didn't happen. So that was like progress for me. Like, this is the first year I haven't had to be in the hospital. And I'm so ecstatic about that. Like, I'm telling you, since 2010, I've been in the hospital every year for at least 30 days between June and July, like clockwork. And this is the first year that did not happen.
Oh, that's huge. I mean, when we talk about progress, I mean, you you look fantastic. I mean, we when you first came on, I was like, oh my gosh, you look so healthy. But what a great measure, what a great non-scale measure of what progress you're making. I'm not like, no, this is working. You just saved yourself an entire month of your life, living your life and doing the things you want to do and enjoying yourself out in the world, and working and doing the things that you love, uh, and not having to be in the hospital for an entire month. I mean, that's amazing. That's a 12th of your life, right? That's a 12th of your year, that you earned back, that you fought to get back. And it's just incredible. I'm so proud of you. I can't even, I'm just so proud of you. I just think
Thank you.
I just think it's amazing. And it is so challenging. And like you said, keeping up with those routines, right? But I love how you talk about, no, this is my routine. And if I set that routine and if I allow myself to have consistency, even without perfection, right? Or what I think that goal is. So I loved your example of, no, I'm like getting up in my house and I'm doing cleaning and I'm moving around and I'm doing things in my house that I wasn't doing before. And no, maybe I'm not like at the gym pumping iron today, right? But I've been up in my house and I've been doing things. That's huge. And that is what allows us to stay within those parameters because we don't get discouraged as easily, right? If we can say, no, progress is progress, is progress, is progress, anything that I do that is a step towards that is a win. And my day doesn't have to look exactly like yesterday. It doesn't have to look exactly like last week. It doesn't have to look like some other fitness Instagram person's, right? Day in
Hmm.
a life. Because where I am compared to last year is better. We are better. Better is always good. And so I just love it. And that peace that you talked about having peace and choosing peace in your life over things like Thanksgiving turkey, right? Thanksgiving is so hard for those of us that struggle with food addiction, like or that struggle with overeating or anything, right? Health concerns. Thanksgiving is hard. And anybody hearing you say like I ate Special K on Thanksgiving because it's a day in the life, and my celebrating Thanksgiving, my being intentional about being grateful on this day or being with people I love on this day has nothing to do with what food I put into my body, right? That's not what it's about. And so, no, I don't have to have pumpkin pie and turkey and dressing and all of that in order to still have that benefit of Thanksgiving. And I think that doesn't get said enough. People feel weird like bringing their own food to Thanksgiving. My mother-in-law, it was probably 4 years ago. I remember telling her I called her like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and I was like, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to bring my own food to Thanksgiving. Like, can I do that? I was like, should I eat before? Like, what do I do? And I remember my mother, and I was so scared. And my mother-in-law was like, you eat what, like, I don't care what you eat. She was like, I'm going to make this food and you eat whatever you want to eat. You bring whatever you want to bring. And she was like, you never have to worry about that. And that, like, I had not heard that before, because it just, there is such a pressure to like eat what's being served, right? And like, oh, you're being rude if you don't, and all of that. But the people in our lives that are supportive to us, that understand that no, we've got goals. uh, I have a hard time, right? So like when people in our lives understand that and understand that like, no, I can't do what other people are doing because when I do that, I have a really big problem with it. And other people are like, oh, the day after Thanksgiving, I'll just, eat a little less that day. Like that's not going to happen for me, right? So, but people in our lives don't always understand that. So when we find that, we go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So what I love about your situation is like you're accepting that to yourself. And I just think it's so beautiful. And being able to communicate that with other people in our lives too, of like, no, I'm not. not saying I don't care about Thanksgiving, right? I'm just saying, like, I literally can't put that food in my body. The same way, like, I can't put peanuts in my body if I'm allergic to peanuts, right? So same thing there. I think it's just beautiful what you're doing. And you talked a little bit about those coping strategies. If that, you know, if we're a person that when we are stressed out, we go to food, like that's us coping. That's us doing the best we can. And sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore, right? So then we go, okay, I'm not smoking cigarettes anymore, but cheese and crackers sounds really great, even though I'm not hungry right now, right? So we can go to those coping things, and it's just our body and our minds doing the exact best that we can in that moment. And then as we understand that and we go, okay, but what else? Like, what else can I do when I'm feeling that way? I think is just so beautiful. And you have a recent blog post that talks about coping with grief during the holidays. And then you have one about navigating depression during the holiday season. You also touched a little bit on some of those symptoms that can happen. But can you tell us a little bit more about that message that you spread about grief during the holidays and also depression during the holiday season?
Far as the grief during the holiday, um, I lost my godfather over the holidays and right before Thanksgiving, and he was someone who was very instrumental in raising me. That was my grandfather's best friend, and I remember when I was my godmother. You hear me talk about her a lot, but when I was a teenager, I went to go stay with her. So all during my high school years, they raised me, and then when I was younger, my godparents used to keep me from pre-K all the way up until until I got older. And um, when my granddad passed away when I was 15, um, I've talked, on this platform before about, how my relationship was with my mother, wasn't so great. And so during this particular time, my godfather always stepped up anyway, but especially like after my granddad passed away, it's like he was that male figure in my life who, was just always there, always an anchor, even as an adult when I had questions about, the boys. My godmother raised five boys, so whenever it was an issue going on with them, she'll be the first person I call for like advice or things like that. And so I was just really concerned too about her because they've been together since she was like 11 years old. And that's a very long time to be with somebody. And he had just turned 80 on November 10th. And then he, passed away. So yeah, it was just a hard time. And then I know too, the holiday season is a big season where a lot of suicide happens because people lost loved ones or don't have family members around or feeling isolated, lonely, or a lot of times it could be financial issues, for people who have children. They feel like they need to buy these kids all these toys and things like that. Um, so that's another reason, like during the holiday season, I touch on a lot of that because, the depression rate is huge, suicide rate is up because of those reasons. Sometimes if people don't have family, they feel isolated and alone. And a lot of times too, even with this social media era, social media can be a gift and a curse. Like I always tell people, like social media is a highlight reel of somebody's life, unless they just on here being obnoxious. But um, like you can't base your life off of, somebody else's life in social media. Like you have no idea what they dealing with. You think that everybody's not going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's why I always tell people it's just a highlight reel of somebody's life. So you can't, a lot of people lose relationships based on what they looking at on social media, thinking somebody they holding some couple in high regard, not knowing this woman could be getting beat on, cheated on, but they don't show all of that. And so here you looking at your partner with disdain because you're study watching somebody's life on social media. So yeah, you got to just be realistic with yourself. You know, that's kind of like even when I was saying about, the choice in regards to Thanksgiving or the choice to stay on track. It's like all those things that I would put in my body that would cause me pain. It's like, okay, I had those foods before. I had cake before. I tasted a turkey. I know what it tastes like. I done had yams, all these things. So it's like, what am I'm not missing anything. I know what it tastes like. So sometimes you got to get yourself in that mindset. And then you got to ask yourself, what is the reason I'm doing this? Like I'm like for once in my life, like I'm not trying to lose weight to impress nobody. I'm not doing it for aesthetics. I'm doing it for me, like for the embetterment of me. Like I feel better. Okay, if I look better along the way, that's fine too. I'll take it. But it's like that's not the goal. It's not for aesthetics. It's for mobility. It's things I want to do. Like I was just telling my sister yesterday, I said, my goal, I said, I want to go to Colorado. I want to go hiking, like it's like things that I want to do, like stuff that people probably even wouldn't even think of doing, like I said, it's not for aesthetics. It's just to be able to be more mobile and do different things. It's like I'm young. I'm not even 50 years old yet. So it's like it's so much that I want to do that the weight and just dealing with the lymphedema has, caused me not to be able to do. And then, like living in these small towns, you're a little isolated. And me, I'm more of an introvert. So it ain't like I'm just out like mingling and trying to, get to know people. I mean, I speak, I'm cordial, but I don't really, engage too much with people, especially where I live. I just always been like that. But yeah, so I think for me to stay on track, like having that routine. I know I can't wait till the afternoon to go to the gym because I'm not going to go. It's like if I don't start my day off that way, like, yeah, let me take my shower, let me go to the gym, then I'll do everything else after that. So that's what I know I have to do for me to be consistent. I can't like, oh, well, let me try to work all day and go to the gym. I ain't gonna want to do that because now I'm comfortable and I'm not gonna want to go get dressed and go to the like it's like it'll be like pulling teeth to get me to do it. So I know in order for me to go, I have to do it early in the morning, and then like even far as like if I'm traveling or something, you prepare ahead of time. Like, okay, I know I don't want to eat any out food. Let me take me some protein shakes. Let me get me some water. Let me get me some grapes or whatever. So you don't have that urge to like, oh, here's a drive through. So you just got to plan ahead, be mindful, and then don't pay so much attention to the scale. Like for me, I started noticing the changes, like my underclothes were getting too big. Like, so it's like all these different things started to happen. Like, oh, I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, a 5X, I can't even fit that no more. Like, okay, that's fine with me. I'll toss it or I'll give it away. Like, so I'm like, so it's like the changes in that you see, not so much the number. Like, I never paid attention to like the numbers. I pay attention to like, because you're gonna lose inches before you lose pounds. So I started noticing a difference in, for one, how I feel. That was the first thing. Then I started noticing like things getting too big, and I was like, oh man, I bought all these new clothes. I was like, oh, I just have to give them away. Like I'd rather have that problem than the other than the other way. So um yeah, it's just like, and then for me, um like how you see where you well, people like you said, like emotionally eating and things like that. But because I have like my blog and different things, like, so when I have that to like work on, so I'll be working on content for that, you know, to give myself something else to do outside, especially being here home alone and things like that. You know, sometimes people eat out of boredom. Well, I control what's being brought in my house. So I don't bring things in my house that I know that I'm not supposed to have. And it's some days like I don't even be hungry. Like I always keep special K cereal because I'm like, that might be my dinner that I eat. And it's like I'm so used to I don't got used to being in this routine of like what I eat that I don't really be hungry a lot. My body done got adjusted to how I eat now. So yeah, it's just a little easier for me.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some good advice too about like planning ahead and making sure, like you said, you only bring things into your house that you can or want to eat and not bringing in that bad food too. Definitely. And I know you mentioned like therapy and going to counseling like at least a year in advance is probably a good idea. So if somebody is listening to this, could you give them a suggestion if they're on the fence about starting counseling or looking into therapy? What suggestion might you give them?
Just start. Um, I think a lot of times, especially like I said, like in the Black community, like people be on the fence about it because when you say therapy, they put that into a negative connotation, like, oh, someone's crazy or, therapy, I tell people therapy is just like going to get your hair done, your nails done. You got to take care of your mind. If you're not good in your mind and in your body, you can't be good for nobody or nothing that you love, you know. If you're not one who is self-medicating, when I say self-medicating, I mean like if you're not your way of distressing is like smoking pot or having a drink or like all these things gonna create a problem because you're gonna create habit. So if that's what you're using to de-stress or unwind, it's like those are not good habits because financially having a pot habit is not a good thing. And in the long run, it's not good for you. I mean, they putting all this stuff on all these things now. Like I wouldn't dare put that stuff in my body. Like I just wouldn't. That's just my personal preference. But if you're on the fence about it, I'll say just start. Have a session with someone and see how you like it. And then now they have it where you don't even have to go into an office. You can do it virtually. Um, so that can be an option for you. Um, and then you can also like pick a therapist according to religious beliefs and all these different things. So it's a ton of things you can do. And if the first person you meet with don't gel with, then try someone else. But I say don't, like don't give up on it. And that's another one of the things I was gonna start having like a weekly group session, kind of like we are on Zoom, so if people just have concerns and questions about different things, they can, kind of talk about those things and kind of go from there. I mean, if you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous. You don't have to, like show your face or show who you are, but just getting the information is key.
Absolutely. I love that. You are such an advocate for mental health, and your physical wellness journey just ties so much into our mental health journey because as you're talking through it, yeah, these pieces with my mental health wellness that helped me, that supported me through improving my physical health and vice versa. So
Mhm.
it's just amazing how those things can they can kind of compound and spiral in one direction or the other. And when we kind of set that ball moving in a wellness direction on both ends, how quickly that can kind of snowball up and then gain momentum. And then as we gain that momentum, it makes it easier and easier to keep going and become that new normal. So I think it's so wonderful. And I thank you so much for being on the show as always, and we just love talking to you. We just like every time I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about today, but I know it's going to be good. And I mean, what great information for somebody who might be considering bariatric surgery, right? Or might be considering an elective surgery. Just these things to kind of think about because it does tie in so much with our mental wellness and our mental health. So thank you so much for being on the show. And if you were listening and you thought, oh gosh, grief during the holidays, like, yeah, I can relate with that situation. I can relate with like the isolation of the holidays or the financial stress of trying to beat everything and provide everything to all the children, all the people in my life. Definitely check out that blog post at Spice to Your Life for coping with grief during the holidays and also navigating depression during the holiday season. Very, very helpful. And just knowing that we're not alone in those things. I think the holidays can be so like, you're supposed to be so happy. And then when you're not internally, you're like, what's wrong with me? Right? Like, am I a Grinch? Right? What's happening? But like, no, we're not a Grinch. We're just humans in a challenging time of year and in a challenging world. So I just think it's beautiful. Also, we're looking forward to that new podcast coming out, Spice to Your Life podcast. We'd love to be on it. We'd love to come join you for an episode or two, maybe return the favor to you. And we'd, of course, love to have you on again. And I cannot wait to be sitting here on a podcast with you and hear about your hiking trip to Colorado, right? I don't know if that's next year, the year after, but at someday, I truly believe it. We're going to be sitting here on the podcast and we're going to go, oh my gosh, how was hiking, right? We're going to be so excited for you because we're already so excited for you and we just adore you. So thank you so much for being on here. As always, it's always great content. It's always great information and support. So
thank you.
Wonderful. So check out Tenesha Gatson at Spice to Your Life on all social media platforms. The blog is awesome. There's always something new. And if you're looking for EAP help for your children, or IEP help for your children, if your children are struggling in school and you feel like they just need some more support, some different kinds of support, or you feel like you're hitting a brick wall with that, check out Spice to Your Life because you can get that free ebook there, and also the other book as well is available for purchase. So, but definitely check out those resources. Very, very helpful hearing it from somebody who's been through it themselves, right? It's not theory. This is not theory. This is real life. And I just think it's awesome.
I'm Tenesha Gatson, and I need a counselor.
Awesome. Me too.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.